wondering why I'm on a metro here in Gurugram, it's because I have with me HMD Global's CEO, Florian Seiche. Florian, thanks so much for joining us. This is pretty much the Nokia Metro.
Absolutely, it's the Nokia Metro today because we've designed a phone for consumers who travel a lot, and we felt what better place to announce it than...
You know what we're going to, I'm going to have a nice long chat with you, but we're going to get off this so that they don't take us to an unknown location, and we'll continue having a chat. Florian, I want to understand from you, this Nokia 2 that you've launched is essentially a product for a market like India. How much of the Indian consumer were you guys thinking of and actually planning this product?
Yeah, we actually really started here with the Indian consumer in mind, and with people, like the commuters on the metro who are about spending, a couple hours a day going to and from work, but who don't want to compromise. They want to be connected with their friends, they want to still have fun, play some games, but also productive, do some emails or work. So it's actually a very demanding use case for us.
Right.
So we had to make some smart choices of how we design a phone. So we came up with the idea, let's give them a big battery, let's optimize the whole system for the long usage, but let's still, even though it's a very affordable phone, let's not compromise on the quality.
Also, Florian, you guys have a partnership with Foxconn, obviously, and all of your Nokia devices that are actually sold in India are made in India.
Absolutely.
But what plans do you have to ramp up manufacturing in India, considering, well, the government has, has the Make in India scheme, which they're very keen on, especially big companies coming and making in India.
Yeah.
What is your plan to make in India?
We already, right now, our short-term goal is we're very busy and focused ramping up the production to actually serve the Indian consumers well, because as we add new models and as we grow our business, we actually need to, it's a big effort to ramp up the production there, but in the future there might be opportunity to even, go beyond this.
And also, Florian, it's very interesting because I want to understand what your experience has been like, considering I know you worked for a while in the telecom space as well, with HTC as well, especially with their branded smartphones and their design division. And it's interesting because what you're offering on Nokia devices is a pure Android experience, a stock Android experience, which is usually only, what consumers only get on high-end smartphones like the Pixel perhaps. I want to understand, one, what has that partnership been like, and two, what's it been like reviving the Nokia brand?
Yeah, very good question. And obviously I start with the Nokia brand is actually what binds us as a team also together. Most of us in HMD, we've been blessed with our, journey in Nokia. But what is unique is we would like to now take this heritage and the great Nokia brand attributes and connect with the next generation of consumers. And then, yes, our partnership with Google is very, very important. We actually started engaging with Google even before we officially launched HMD. And one insight we together based this partnership on is that even though today more than 86% of consumers globally choose Android as their smartphone operating system, if you look at the installed base of consumers, only a small fraction of them have the opportunity to really experience the very latest version of Android. And Google has made a lot of effort to make the Android operating system, but also all their apps, really modern, fresh. And so I've done a lot of work, but not enough consumers experience it today.
Right.
So we said, why don't we team up together and we create a whole lineup of Nokia Android smartphones that all can deliver that great experience, and we even keep it fresh throughout the life.
Right. As a startup, I have to ask you a startup question.
Sure.
Has it turned profitable, HMD Global?
This year we are still investing in our smartphone lineup as we enter the smartphone, but at the same time we have a unique position that we actually have this feature phone business, which is actually a sizable and also a healthy, profitable business. So the feature phone business, in which we are already a global and a leading player, helps us actually to get off to a great start with the smartphones.
Florian, that brings me to my next question. Feature phone. That's the buzzword here in India, especially with what Reliance is doing with the Jio phone. I don't know whether it's a feature phone or it's a relatively less smartphone, but I don't know whether that market seems lucrative to you, because today you launched the Nokia 2, which is, well, a budget smartphone with some very strong specs. Is the 4G feature phone market something that you'd like to tap?
We are certainly looking at this very, very carefully, and because by nature, because we are so strongly present in the feature phone business, this is obviously something we watch very carefully. And then also, we definitely see a big upgrade trend over the coming years from feature phone to smartphone. And we also recognize some consumers might take a little longer, or they might take different steps before they upgrade to the smartphone.
But
so again, we're watching it carefully.
But do you see it as a challenge, or is it something very unique to the Indian market, according to you?
I think not unique to the Indian market. I think we do see from an operator perspective, the move to 4G, we definitely see as a trend for the future. Absolutely.
Now, also, Florian, as a follow-up question, when it comes to market share, I think there's this crazy battle for market share in India. You have a lot of Chinese manufacturers who've been trying hard with massive marketing budgets, and in terms of product placement as well. Do you see that as some sort of a concern, or is Nokia's Scandinavian reputation going to hold them in good stead? I ask you that because I also want to understand what are your expectations in terms of what are your aims when it comes to market share?
Yeah, we certainly want to grow fast, and we see the opportunity to grow fast. Again, we have a unique opportunity because we can build on the Nokia brand that consumers already know, and therefore we can focus all our efforts on making clear to consumers the new unique value they're getting from their Nokia smartphone. We don't have to build an entire brand fresh. We need to make the brand relevant for the new consumers. So our investments can be a little more focused than other players who are starting fresh. And again, in India, we have a very special situation that we have a great partner network. We have a big network of exclusive partners who have the same ambition as us to make Nokia big. So we're not alone. We are together with them, helping to connect the consumers.
That's an interesting model, and as another question, because you mentioned investment in India, are there any other plans on the horizon for capital infusion in India?
Definitely, we are very confident that we will have great success in India, and therefore we will also plan to invest further in India, in our team, in the marketing, but also can be even in other areas or partnerships.
There's one thing that was perhaps one of the world's most popular phones, and that's something that you guys use in a very clever way to market the Nokia brand, was the revival of the Nokia 3310. I want to understand whether that was something which was perhaps done, because the whole world's been wondering, was it just done as a marketing sort of gimmick saying, hey, this is back, or was that a phone which you actually thought would do well commercially?
Well, the initial idea was literally us saying, wouldn't it be great to have a bit of fun and bring that iconic device back in a young, new way to consumers. So the idea was bold, and it was like a gutsy move, and it therefore created a lot of marketing attention. Actually, we are really surprised. It has become one of our biggest selling models, and the interesting thing, this is the model that the youngest consumer buy. It's the 14 to 16 year olds that buy the 3310. So it's been a real
And this is globally?
Yes.
Also, I want to ask you, in terms of the Nokia 8, that is your flagship device.
Yes.
It's no mean feat to make a device like that. Aluminium uni body, great camera, great processor, both these. But with that Nokia 8 as well, have you gotten the sort of response that you wanted in India? Are there any sales numbers that you'd like to share with us?
We can't share specific numbers, but what we are really excited is that, yes, even in India, Nokia 8 is doing well. And which, again, I think the magic formula is, if you want to create momentum, to having a portfolio available, being present in key shops with a range of phones, and having consumers recognize you for that. I think that helps even to sell your high-end.
But Florian, has it been a challenge really, considering the Nokia brand, with all of the reputation that it comes with, and then how in between, perhaps for consumers, it sort of disappeared, and now that you're bringing it back as a startup, what's the culture like, and how difficult has it been for you to revive the brand?
I think the great thing is the demand and interest and excitement, both from consumers and partners, is unbelievably strong. Our ability to meet all these expectations in one day, that's our challenge as a startup. So therefore we need to be thoughtful and go step by step. That's why we are introducing our portfolio, thoughtfully, one step at a time to complete it. The same in our country rollout, we need to be thoughtful. Our partners want us to be even more successful faster, and we will do this together, but we need to do it step by step.
I'm so glad, Florian, that you spoke to us on Bloomberg, Quinn. This is your first trip as HMD Global CEO to India. I'm hoping that you have a great trip. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. Well, that was an interesting chat with Florian, HMD Global's CEO. But there's someone who looks specifically at the products. You're talking about the flagship Nokia 8 or the Nokia 3310 or the Nokia 2. There's one person who looks at all of these products and actually brings them to market. And he's here with me, Juho. Thanks so much for joining us on Bloomberg, Quinn.
Thank you so much for your time.
Juho, essentially when you did come out with the Nokia 8, was there a lot of pressure, considering it's the flagship and considering there's a OnePlus 5 and then there's the iPhone 10?
For sure, yeah.
How do you actually go about?
Then again, it's the same in every single segment.
Okay.
We have high respect for the competition, but what I'm more keen on is that how do we deliver unique value for the consumer in that segment? Okay. With Nokia 8, actually take a step back. What I like to think is that all of our products have a soul. There's like a personality, a character behind the device. With Nokia 8, it is the most advanced design, carved out of aluminium to date. And then on the second hand, we wanted to differentiate on imaging with a unique take on social sharing with the dual side and BOTHI features.
Right. I want to understand what the whole idea was behind that BOTHI. Where did you get that idea from? And has it worked out well for you guys?
It has, for sure. And the BOTHI feature came from just seeing what our target consumer, we want to attract a new audience for the Nokia brand. So we love our fans. We love the people who know Nokia, have owned multiple Nokia phones. We absolutely love them, we'll cater for them. Right. But we're also keen in addressing the new generation. Right. So we were actually observing the behavior, interviewing, and the key need is that they want to be able to share their lives even more immersively.
Right.
And that's how we came out with the idea of live streaming directly on Facebook, also audio, both these, so fusing both the main and the front camera together, right, and delivering this new generation of an immersive storytelling for that audience.
Another thing I want to get into your mind for is to understand how you actually look at different markets. We can walk and have a chat, sure, because we're at Gurugram metro station.
Sounds great.
Which is a unique venue altogether. But what I want to understand, Juho, is when you look at different markets, saying one being, India, then the Nokia 7 is something you launched exclusively in China. And then you look at, of course, the Americas and Europe. How different is your lens when it comes to a market like India?
The key thing to start with is, of course, is that you need to look at the global market. You need to understand where people buy, which is one way of looking at where you can add most value for the consumers. Then you need to look at what your beliefs and who you are as a product maker, what's your identity, and match those three with the most important one, which is the consumer insight. So we always go to key markets, we interview consumers, we do kind of a immersion, even a day in a life, which is actually we did in India 9 months ago, before we locked down on the Nokia 2 concept. What we discovered here is that people commute extremely long times, and their only window to the world, so to speak, the only way to keep them entertained, productive, or social is actually the phone. And we feel that there's an underserved need that we're in an excellent position to go and meet.
So the Nokia 2, I can safely say, is specifically designed for a market like India?
Absolutely. There's also similar markets in APAC, Middle East Africa, and I would also say Central East Europe. It's a universal proposition, but people, depending on their lifestyle, where they live, they might prefer it more, and that's over-indexing clearly in India.
I was speaking to Florian earlier as well. India, and considering you studied the Indian market, is a unique proposition.
Yes.
Especially considering that we've seen how there's a sudden demand for a 4G feature phone, which is kind of unique. Is that something you would consider in your product portfolio?
We're really happy to continue innovating in the feature phone space. So like you know, we've launched the Nokia 3310, first 2G, then 3G.
Right.
Nokia has always stood for leadership in network technologies and radio technologies. I think that's a very fascinating opportunity space. If you look at the inside, like why do people care about this 4G feature phone? That's because there are so many characteristics with the feature phone that resonate with the Indian market. It's the battery life, you can rely, it's your lifeline. But then again, there are multiple ways of addressing that need. With the 2-day battery life on Nokia 2, we're actually tackling that consumer need very effectively in a highly sophisticated manner.
Right, no, and of course, but the Nokia 2, you guys are still to reveal the India pricing. Well,
Yes.
at least when it comes to the Nokia 2, it's a €100 piece, but that's a little bit more expensive. But
For sure, yeah.
having said that, you have packed it with a lot of features.
Yeah.
So so your first USP was the fact that it has a 4100 mAh battery. So when you have
2-day battery life.
Nokia 2 for 2-day battery life, then the camera. What's the rationale behind putting such a powerful camera with such strong specs on a budget smartphone?
People share their lives, and now I can remember that we did this consumer immersion with the newer generation here in India. And people who have affordability constraints or just don't feel like they need to spend that much money on their phone.
Right.
But they're very social. It's all about sharing your life. It's all about posting cool stuff. So obviously you have to cater for that. You have to get the imaging to a level where you're proud to share and post the pictures that you take with your Nokia 2.
And also, you know, another thing I want to understand, Juho, is that when you're actually looking at the India market, what are 2 or 3 things that really stand out for you? Because, well, when global companies, when MNCs come down to India, well, they have a very different approach to India because you need a unique approach, right? Be it frugal innovation, be it understanding localization. Localization is key as well. What are 2 or 3 things that have stood out for you when you look at the consumer tech segment in India?
The most demanding consumer profile globally is most likely in India. Actually, all of our devices in our field testing are consumer trials. Before we get anywhere near launching a device, we always do India. It doesn't matter if the target market is Europe for a high-end device or whatever it is, we always test in India. You get the most demanding feedback, so to speak, and it helps you do even better devices. So the number one thing for me is that people are highly educated when it comes to the quality of experience, even the technical specification of the device. And then the way that they use the device.
And they want value for money as
well. Yes. And the way that they use the device is, don't get this the wrong way, the most extreme. They use the most demanding conditions globally. So I think it's a fantastic market, and one of my, the proof is in the pudding type of statements is that if we can win in India, and if we can design a great device for India, I feel very good globally.
Okay, I have one last question. I mean, I would love to end it on that lovely note, but there is one question that I have. Consumers around the world are growing increasingly conscious about design. A company like Apple, was criticized for so long because their form factor didn't change for 3 or 4 generations. Now with the iPhone 10, it's the first time that they've caught up with other manufacturers with perhaps a bezel-less display, OLED screens, for God's sake. I'm not pinpointing at any one company, but I want to understand, well, Apple's core has always been design, right? Samsung's trying as well, OnePlus is trying as well. Now with Nokia, the popular perception is that this is a very sturdy Scandinavian piece, and it's a welcome change. How much do you actually pay attention to design to make it look good?
Design for me, it's actually not only the physical appearance. I'll talk about like how do we design in just a second. The design is the entire experience. So if you look at it as a physical artifact and a form, it's not the right approach. You should look at it as what is the consumer need, what is the scenario, what is the best experience, and that to me is actually the design. But now if you're looking at the physical design of it, the key differentiator for us that also applies on Nokia 2 is that we always start with a pure and true material approach. The Nokia 2 is milled out of a single block of 6000 series aluminium. Up until we arrived in Barcelona, this level of structural integrity and design quality did not exist anywhere near the mid or the low range of the marketplace. So and we felt that that's something that people always loved Nokia for. So why don't we take that same approach in terms of premium build quality and then continue on what Nokia has always stood for, which is the Scandinavian design, reduction to a point where it's actually quite daring. You eliminate all of the unnecessary transitions and you keep it simple and pure.
No, and so as my last question, since you're talking about design, that's a very interesting thing because design is very subjective.
Absolutely.
What you like, I may not like. What I like, my camera person might not like. But it's an interesting one. When it comes to a unibody, that is a very unique proposition. My last question is going to be on a sheer element of nostalgia, being the Nokia 3310. What was it like bringing that piece back from a product placement point of view? Because you know that piece was perhaps, it sold, what, millions of units in the 2000s. Getting that piece back, there must have been a lot of pressure, right? As to how you modernize it, but still keep the classic.
But this is an excellent example, right? So we did not design a specification for a price point.
Yeah.
We wanted to do an awesome experience. Like, it actually takes a whole lot to achieve that level of miniaturization.
Right.
Like you were talking about borderless displays. The 3310 display is kind of borderless in that the edge of the display actually goes all the way to the design.
It goes.
So we're bringing very premium, high-end design elements to a feature phone.
Yeah.
And people are loving it. So I'm so passionate about that, and we'll definitely do even more about that, and also translate that into smartphone space, which we're already doing today.
Very cool. Juho, thank you so much for joining us on Bloomberg.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.